Recording. Oh,
It's recording now.
now we're live.
What's up, everybody?
What's up?
I'm Stu, and that's David. And we have a pretty rad dude on today. His name is John Laney. And this is Fill in Storehouse podcast episode 10.
10.
Episode 10. John, welcome, man. Glad to have you.
Hey, thanks. Yeah, glad to be here. We've been working together for the last 18 months or so, and yeah, get to be on your podcast. What an honor.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. We're stoked, John. We're stoked to have you. As Stu said, you're a pretty rad guy, and I'm gonna start off quick with a bio. So John Laney is an explosive ordnance disposal officer and currently the commander of Mine Countermeasures Division 31, based out of San Diego. He's a Christian husband, father, and mentor, fully committed to helping others become the best version of themselves, and has been able to use real estate as a tool to accomplish those goals. John's future plans involve getting out of the Navy in 2020, which is maybe up in the air, volunteering in Bolivia for a year, and then returning home to Oregon, buying some flannel shirts, and running a Christmas tree farm, which is awesome. It might be one of my favorite bios ever. I also wanted to throw in there that, you didn't add this, John, but I added this, that you're a man of faith with a growth mindset, a leader, and an entrepreneur. And I thought that was important because those are really some of the heavy themes that we continue to hit. Those are some of the core values that we have at Storehouse 310. And you're the perfect guest for this show.
Yeah, well, thanks, Dave. Appreciate you flattering me.
So I think we should just talk about starting up a Christmas tree farm, and move right to that. And just
what else could make a man happy than have a couple acres, have some Christmas trees, a couple dogs,
and some flannel shirts.
Like, if you want to make a man happy, cut down some trees, wake up in the morning, chop down some trees, go play with your dogs. Man, there can be nothing better than that.
You run out of undies, you cut those old shirts up.
Yeah, exactly.
Sew yourself some sweet flannel drawers. Like, dude, it's a win-win-win-win. Like,
especially being from Oregon. That's what every Oregonian wants to do.
Awesome.
There's
a lot of business in that too. You sell Christmas trees.
Yeah.
You potentially have people come plant trees. You sell flannel undies. Like, there's a lot going on, man. I love it. Hey, I'm moving to Oregon.
If you need some investors, I'm in.
Okay, good.
I'm in. So for real though, talking about investors. So we actually met John initially because he bought a house from us, and we had got connected. He's an alumni of our great institution from Naval Academy, and he is an officer, as David said, in the EOD world. Lives in San Diego, and so we just have tons of connections. And he bought property from us, then he bought another property, and we've started to grow closer to John and get more connected and kind of learn a lot about each other. And we see a lifelong partnership in many endeavors, possibly Christmas farm trees and flannels and stuff, but
Christmas tree farms. Yeah.
I got it.
Words.
So as we've learned about John, besides just his real estate background, which we will get into for sure, we have learned a lot more about John that we want to talk about today. And John, you're an entrepreneur at heart, man. Like, we have learned that you started all kinds of endeavors, and we really love for you to kind of talk about some of those. And before that though, we want to talk about kind of the why behind it all. What's driving you down this entrepreneurial path, besides just, the Navy path?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for asking. That start with why is so critical. Like, why do you get up in the morning? Like, why do you even do what you do? And, I've been thinking about that quite a bit, and my little known fact that my change of command was scheduled for tomorrow. Unfortunately, due to COVID, it didn't happen. That's one of the things that I really wanted to talk about is, like, why do men live? And if I wasn't an EOD officer, I may be a philosopher. I may have been a philosopher. And there's philosophers think there's really three reasons. So there's a guy named Adler, and he thinks people live for power. Men live for power. I get up in the morning so I can have power over you. I'm a commanding officer, so I can have power over people. I want to have power over people. That's why people live for power, to gain power. And I like power. Power's pretty good. I enjoy it, but it's not my end. Another philosopher came by. His name was Freud. He said, well, clearly men live for pleasure. Why else do you work other than to get pleasure? Pleasure of all types. That's why we live. I like pleasure too. Pleasure is great. I like having good drink, good friends. I like pleasure.
Kombucha? Like kombucha?
I like kombucha. Yeah, I brewed my own kombucha. It's delicious. I love kombucha. I don't live for kombucha.
Yeah.
Or ice cream or anything else. Then another guy came by. He said, you both are wrong. His name was Viktor Frankl. He said, mankind, we live from meaning. And I have discovered my meaning is to fully invest in my kids first, my family, well, my kids, my family, my community, and my church. And those three areas, my kids, my community, my church, my faith, those three areas are what I found meaning in. And as a result of that, I've been presented this once in a lifetime opportunity to have an opportunity to get out of the Navy when I'm, how old am I? I'm 43, get out of the Navy at 43 and have a whole nother career available to me where I can not just fully invest in my kids, my family, my church on the weekends or, on one Wednesday night out of the week, but do that full time, spend 40 hours a week doing that investment. And as I developed that why, and I got closer and closer to that why, I said, wow, I need to make sure that this financially works. So I get out of the Navy and I get a paycheck, and that's great. Get a little pension. That's super. But when I started running the numbers, it was like, wow, the numbers don't quite work out. And we can talk about that a little bit later because we're kind of focused on the why question. But my why is to be able to fully bring people to the top of their game and to fully invest in my family, my boys, building 2 Christian young men, my family, my community, and my church. So that's the why. Long answer to a why do I get up in the morning? What is my why? Why do I work hard? Why do I have little blisters on my fingernails from typing?
I love it, man. I mean,
typing on the computer.
I love it. And it fits right in with us, it fits right in with Storehouse. It's right in with our purpose. And it's not really just real estate for us. It's way more than that for us. And it hits home, man. I love it.
Yeah, real estate's cool. Kombucha is cool. Being a naval officer is cool, but it's not my why. It's a means to an end. Having power is cool. Being in command, oh man, everybody should try it. It's great. But it's a means to my end, not an end in itself.
Yeah, that's incredible. We it really resonates and it's very clear too. One thing that we're always preaching as well is you really have to put some time into understanding your why. You really have to put some time the why just doesn't come, right? And if your why isn't well established, then it's very hard for anybody else to embrace your why. And it's evident that you've put significant time into that, and kudos to you for the time well spent. Because I know I'd follow you. I'd follow you to a Christmas tree farm and get after it. So I appreciate it. I appreciate it, John.
Well, and just to comment on that, if you don't put time into it, your why, it'll just be more. Like if you don't really think about what your why is, it's just, well, I just need a little bit more. Just that next car, just a little bit bigger house, just a little bit more. And you'll never be satisfied with what you've got. So yeah, it's critical or you end up down the wrong path that you regret.
Yeah. And that's huge. And one of the things that I listen to Pastor Rick Warren a lot, one of the things that he really harps on is being content and how you find content. And Paul in the Bible talks about being content in all all situations. And that's the true magic in life, right? To be able to be content in what you have or don't have, and to press towards that why. So, yeah, you're speaking my language. You're speaking my language. So,
Same page.
as a follow on, you got a lot going on, John, right? You're continuing to excel as an entrepreneur. You're a full-time active duty guy. You're a commanding officer. You got this farm to plan for. You got, Bolivia to look for, a camping trip across the country before COVID changed your plans. I mean, you got a lot going on. I'm just kind of curious how you balance all of that, and what kind of conversations and interactions. You talked about being a mentor. What kind of conversations and interactions does that enable with your sailors and those that serve with you, and even outside of the realm of the Navy? And do those experiences go hand in hand? Does one make you better at the other? Does the commanding officer piece make you better with entrepreneurial side, and just how all that stuff works together? If you don't mind touching on that, that'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, let's just really try to touch on that. There's a lot of questions in there. I hope I can address them all. So, as far as the mentorship, I think having my side businesses, having the entrepreneur side of me, it gives me perspective outside the Navy. So, one example is, frequently when somebody chooses to get out, a junior officer says, I've had my fun, it's been great, and I'm choosing to get out. There's the initial impression is like, it's a disappointment. You don't want to be a career Navy guy. However, having a side business, having a life outside the Navy really shows me, you can add so much more value to the nation by being a fine American. And maybe that's being a fine American as getting out of the Navy and starting a family, and having 2 kids and raising 2 great fine American children. Maybe that's how you add value to your community and yourself and your nation. Maybe it's to get out and go join a Fortune 500 company. Maybe it's to stay in. I don't know. I can't pick that. But I can tell you that all of those can be equally weighted in contributing to yourself, your community, and your nation. And so there's no one wrong answer. And I think by having this job on the outside, or this entrepreneur work on the outside, I can really see how, by being a great mom, by being a Fortune 500 worker, by being an entrepreneur, you can add value to yourself, your community, and your nation, not just by, and the Navy is only one way to do that, or the military is one way to do that, not the only way to do that.
It's I agree 100%. I think it actually is powerful to have kind of that other perspective outside of being just a career military guy and just solely focusing on that all the time. To have those kind of that side hustle and that entrepreneurial spirit and the thinking outside the box kind of stuff. I bet I personally think that it can really help you in your career in the military to think outside the box a little bit more, to not be in that, kind of that straight line, bureaucratic way of thinking, and look at things a little differently. Right.
Yeah.
So I think it's a fantastic thing to do. I mean, I think everyone should have a side business, if it's just buying one rental property, just to have that. Because I think it's a great transition, out of the military, right? But 2, just like that, the mindset of having that entrepreneurial spirit. But I kind of wanted you to talk about like what kind of stuff you're doing. I mean, there's a real estate piece to it, but I want to hear kind of the backstory of the other stuff that you've been doing, and I definitely want to talk about DoD Reads. So where did your entrepreneurial journey start?
Yeah, so it started in 2004. And in 2005, something happened to me that I hope happens to nobody. And that's, I tested positive for cocaine during a Navy urinalysis. I was on an EOD platoon. And so the first thing my CO did was say, well, sorry, John, you're off that platoon. And, oh, you say you didn't take cocaine? Well, we'll see about that. We'll go through the process. So was off the platoon for about 9 months. About 6 months, while the process was being developed. And during that time, I had, as you may imagine, a lot of free time. And during that time, internet was kind of coming online, and I was looking for some fit rep bullets. I was like, wow, there's no place where I can find these fit rep bullets online. Well, why don't I create a website that provides fit rep bullets? I'll scratch my own itch. I need it. I'm an officer. Sure, there's a lot of other officers that could use some fit rep bullets. So I created Navy Fit Rep. Wow. I was like, wow, hard to find PT information too. Navy PRT. And after the 6-month investigation, I was cleared from taking cocaine. It happened to be a Bolivian tea that I had drunk hours before the urinalysis. I had learned something through that process about scratching my own itch and finding a need and then filling that need. And so, so that continued on, finding a need, filling that need. And where it's really peaked was with the website that I'm currently working on now, the brand that I'm currently working on now, and it's called DoD Reads. And DoD Reads came from a conversation that I had about 4 years ago with a senior EOD mentor. And I was going up before a command board. And in the Navy, before you go to command, you have to go before a board of captains, 06s, and they quiz you and make sure you're the type of person that is capable and has the aptitude to lead our nation's finest sailors. And the first question that I was asked by a big rough guy named Vince Martinez, he said, "So John, what are you reading?" At the time, I didn't have a very good answer. A little Men's Health here and maybe some instructions there and a news article on Yahoo News. I was like, does that help?
ESPN magazine,
Didn't cut it. Did not. That answer, you saw right through that answer. It's like, listen. That one question tells me a whole lot about you. If you're going to lead our nation's finest sailors, you've got to be a lifelong learner throughout your entire career, throughout your entire lifetime. Learning doesn't just end at college. It doesn't just end after your 2-week leadership course. It doesn't just, end after that leadership PowerPoint that you took. Learning occurs your entire life. And the way that adults learn is through reading. So you better get on it. I was like, okay, well, I got pretty beat up over that, so I better try this whole reading thing. And next couple of weeks later, I had a cross-country drive from DC to San Diego. So I downloaded some books, downloaded Fahrenheit 451, downloaded some other novels. It's like, holy cow, there's a lot of good information in these books. Who knew? So through that, I really became hooked on reading, on the whole lifelong learning process, and thought, there's probably another John Laney out there, Ensign Laney, Lieutenant Commander Laney, who could maybe learn a thing or two from books. So I can set up a website, DoD Reads, and hopefully help that guy along during his or her process of lifelong learning. So that's the impetus and the background for DoD Reads. Came from a big failure, but hopefully I was able to help somebody else.
Yeah, no, that and that kind of leads right into the next question. But I think a key thing that you highlighted is someone gave you some input, very wise input, awesome input, and you ran with it and you took action. And I think that's a huge part too. I think that leads to I think that's really a result of the mindset, the leadership, but the growth mindset, the abundance mindset to take action. You could have gone into a hole and be like, I failed that command board, but look at you, obviously, clearly it paid off, and you're a commanding officer, and the Navy can't get rid of you at this point. So it's that's a cool story. I totally forgot about the cocaine test. Yeah, what a crazy adventure that must have been.
What a shock!
I can't even imagine.
It was Saturday or Sunday.
I can't even
imagine.
imagine.
A phone call is by my operations officer. It's like it was right during when Iraq was kicking off. It's like your medical record come in.
Now, do you still have that website, the Fit Rep website?
Yeah,
Because
that was
we're all O5s here, and we've got something to do here pretty quick.
I'm gonna
If
need
I'm
some
not
foot
already
reps. Yeah, I'm gonna need some bullets.
if I'm not already dink, I don't know. Yeah.
yeah.
So
I just kind of like make up stuff every single time, or like just copy and paste from like
If you
my
just do it from
predecessor.
2 years ago, nobody will
good to go. Good to go.
just
I'm just
copy.
waiting for my skipper to finish. I'm like, hey, I really need your bullets, and she's like, oh, let's see how this is tasking up. So hey, following since you kind of led into it, talk about a time when your plans fell apart outside of testing positive for cocaine. But because a lot of people listen to this stuff, and you know what, it's really funny to me. And I also think it's a mindset thing. I think people with a scarcity mindset think that the dudes like you are lucky, right? You're lucky that the website is doing awesome and you have hundreds of thousands of followers, and you're lucky that you're a commanding officer, and you're lucky that you're an entrepreneur and that you own this real estate, and you're lucky you can do those things. Well, luck has nothing to do with it. It has to do with the classroom of life. It has to do with, the process that you have gone through, the discipline and the faith. And I'm just kind of curious when you failed and how that impacted you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it has to do with the growth mindset. It has to do with the process of life. It has to do with just starting to take action. And that's, that's the advice that I give for, just talked to a buddy of mine a couple weeks ago on this. And man, like, he's got all these great ideas. And I'm so excited for his ideas. And we've been talking for probably a year about these great ideas, and they're still in the idea phase. And just to take that next step of action, just whether it's with real estate, just start to analyze some houses, just start to talk to some brokers, just start to reach out to folks like you, some turnkey providers. Reach out to 4 of them. Get on your mailing list. Just start to take that action, and that's certainly one of the keys to my success is taking that action and moving forward. The other is, you mentioned 10 minutes ago, it's about having a side job. And the fact is, everybody has a side job when they get out, when they go home from work. Some people just read the paper. Some people just watch YouTube. Some people, their side job is to goof around. I've taken my side job, and my side job is to build a business. Nothing's wrong with binge watching Netflix. Nothing morally wrong with that. There's not any moral difference, but I've just chose to every day spend a little bit of time working on my websites, working on my real estate, working on myself, developing myself. And through that, doing that for a lifetime, or at least a career-wise, gets you to a point that you're at now. Just having idea after idea after idea gets you to a point where you just got a whole lot of ideas and maybe some frustration because none of them work out. And then you see a guy like me who has one idea who's come to fruition or is moving along to fruition. You're like, wow, he's just lucky. Not seeing getting up at 5:30, not seeing that I've almost eliminated all electronic entertainment, not seeing that I hardly read the news or watch the news. It just doesn't add value to me. And I'd much rather add value in my websites and my real estate than do things like that. So that's certainly been a focus. Also, going back to the mindset, the mindset and the failures. So every time you have a failure with my command board, I could have left the command board. I'd be like, Vince Martinez, that old man, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Like, he didn't have to beat me up. But if you live a lifetime of fighting everybody that gives you advice, whether it's good advice or whether it's kind advice, whether they do it, as a friend, or whether they do it as somebody that kind of beats you up and says, hey, you failed on this. If you live a lifetime of keeping that advice at arm's length and say, man, they don't know what they're talking about, man, I don't need that advice, man, he's all full of baloney, then you're going to absolutely stagnate and you're not going to learn anything. You can take what Vince Martinez told me, said, hey, John, you're failing by not reading. I said, okay, well, I better at least try this whole reading thing. Then you have a lifetime of incremental improvements. And that's where the success is through that, through those incremental improvements. It's not just one thing. It's
I don't
incremental
know.
improvements with a lot of failures in between.
I think most of people would have probably just started reading, not necessarily started a website and have, tens of thousands of people listening to your book advice. But hey, awesome. Good on you. Good on you.
I want to know, like, how do you read books so fast? I mean, like, you're like throwing down like multiple books a week. I'm like, it takes me like a month or two to get through one book. I'm pretty amazed, man.
Yeah, well, give you a little secret. I don't always read every book that I review.
Oh, the truth comes out.
So nor do I claim to.
No, I know. I'm just joking.
Is also a marketing. We also do marketing. So I will take somebody's book, read a chapter, read the front, read the back, understand it, and then promote it through DoD Reads. So it gives the author, certainly gives awareness to the book, gives awareness to the author, and then I'll give that book away. So I can do that I can do that and have a good rhythm of once a week going through books, getting the gist of it, understanding it, promoting it through DoD Reads, giving it away, and then the best of the books I read the whole one and read it from cover to cover and then keep it. But most of the books I do give away.
That's fantastic.
One thing I love and I picked up on this the other day. You're very intentional with your language, and I think it's because you're a man of integrity and honesty, and you don't flatter or say that you're going to do things that you don't do. And the other day I thought it was hilarious. Our podcast, obviously this is episode 10. It's pretty new, and we're hitting you up, say, hey John, we'd love to have you on, and it'd be great. And you said, yeah, I see you guys are doing a podcast. And I was going to give you a hard time, be like, hey man, what do you think of it? Do you listen to it? And I want to put you on the spot, but I loved it. I was like, yeah, we'll get you to listen though. We'll get you to listen.
Oh yeah,
no, I and then we'll get you to listen.
Episode 9, listen to that in the carway, most of episode 9. And yeah. And when with Robin, I've probably seen more than half of them.
Yeah. No, I'm just giving you a hard time. I just thought it was awesome. But it really is, again, back to that action piece is so incredible, just to, and for our listeners out there, if there is one piece of advice that we could really, really give you, it doesn't matter what you're doing, right? Like we do real estate, we do, the podcast thing, like these things were ideas at one point, and until you go and buy the microphone and you set up the time, and it's not easy, right? Every time we record one of these, Stu and I joke, I'm like, man, my wife is mad at me. My kids are screaming. There's timeout. All I hear in the background when I push mute is I pooped, all this stuff, like it's constant and it's not easy, but that action, you take that action and you see where it goes. So it's awesome.
So what are the goals behind all this, John? So I want you to, one, just kind of talk about the real estate side of your business, and two, where do you see DoD Reads going, and what's kind of the goal behind all of this?
Okay. Yeah. So as I alluded to a few minutes ago, so start with the why. I want to get out of the Navy in 2020. I want to be financially independent so that I can be fully invested in my kids, family, my church, my community. That's the why. Okay. So I had always had that. I'd always wanted to be that financially independent after getting out of the Navy. Okay. And when I moved around in the Navy, I'd purchased houses, kept the houses, and then rented them out. And I thought, oh wow, this is great. The rent's covering the mortgage. It must be good. Well, then I started to analyze properties, and I thought, wow, this is not good, because even though the rent's covering the mortgage, I didn't take into account vacancy or property management expenses or taxes or capital expenses or repairs or all those other things. And like, wow. On these 3 houses that I have, negative, negative by a lot. Oh my goodness. So my dream of using my houses that I lived in to kind of finance my retirement wasn't going to work at all. So like, okay, well,
I want to hit on something real fast, because there's some advice that's thrown out there a lot, especially in the military world, of hey, buy a house at every duty station and then live in it and then just turn it into a rental when you leave. I personally think that's terrible advice. I mean, it sounds like you would say the same thing. Do you agree?
I would say it's terrible advice if you don't run the numbers and if you don't actually look at the numbers. And if you think you're being cash flow positive because the rent approximates the mortgage, you're absolutely wrong. You're absolutely wrong. And most folks in the Navy are going to be on the East and West Coast, and buying houses on the East and West Coast with the intention of renting them is a bad idea. Is a bad idea. If you want to get cash flow, maybe you'll hope for, in 10 years, I'll sell my house in San Diego and I'll be a millionaire. Well, okay, maybe so. But if you're willing to take negative cash flow for the next 10 years, what I want, not speculating, I want a month-to-month cash flow, an extra $200 or $300 or $400 a month, not try to get that 10 years later when I try to sell the house and hope that
you both hit on a great point too. Like this house that I'm recording from right now, it was at the very low end cost wise that that we were looking at, and I think you hit a great point. You have to, if you don't know, you have to talk to somebody to run the numbers. My wife and I ran the numbers a ton of times, right? And in this current market, I'm sitting at a 2.75 percent on a house over 30 years, and it was a way less house than I could quote unquote afford. And if you're willing to do that, again, it's not about right, you're sacrificing some things. But you're very intentional about it and you think about it. There's ways to make it work. But there's plenty of duty stations I've been that I've not even considered buying a house. Newport, for example, I was like, I'm not going to buy a house here. You look at the taxes alone, you're going to get destroyed. But it was it was something that we considered with numbers, not emotions, when we were looking at the house. And then you find a place. This house is 1970 something, right? So we turned a closet into a bathroom and a closet, and it redid the kitchen. There's things that you can find value in, but again, like you said, and like you hit on, Stu, you have to analyze those numbers. You have to have that analytical mind, and if you don't, call somebody.
Call somebody that's done this before. I'll give you my contact information below. I'm happy to talk. I've got a great spreadsheet. I'm a spreadsheet guy. I'm just totally nerd out on it. Love it.
You two could nerd out for probably another hour and a half on spreadsheets. So,
dude, I love spreadsheets.
Spreadsheet or Stu spread, whatever. Find a spreadsheet, bigger pockets, and we'll tell you if this is a good deal or not. Or if it meets your objective.
So you transitioned from buying your own houses and turn them into rentals to then what?
So I did the numbers, said, wow, this is certainly not going to take me for the next 20 years. So I need to do something very different. And so so my real estate journey is very similar to many real estate journeys. Is I started with single family houses, and I've purchased a handful. I purchased 4 single family houses, and that has provided a solid long-term cash flow that I can rely on for the long term. I'm in the process of building a 4-plex out of Napa, Idaho, with a company that I'm working with. And then I've also done a number of syndications. I've done 4 syndications. And so that mix of single family houses, multifamily houses, and then syndications, I am projected to, Lord willing, I'm projected to get that financial freedom that has been my desire. And I've been able to do that in about 2 or 3 years, to allow me to get to my why, and not just having the extra money. It allows me to do the why.
I love it, man. It's great, and I think David and I are both on that same path, and that's entirely our goal as well, is to get to that financial freedom number, and that way you can focus entirely on that why, and finding your highest and best purpose, right?
And you forgot about a sweet little duplex that you've got in your portfolio.
Oh yeah, what about that duplex?
Multifamily, yeah. That's part of the 4.
Yeah, full disclosure, John has bought a couple of places from us, and it's been an amazing partnership, and it's been really fun to do business with him. So
yeah, you sent me your best houses, so thank you.
I was about to buy that one.
I know you were. I know.
For anybody else listening, we don't just save the best for John Laney. We try to give other good deals away too. Okay. All right. So hey, let's move on to some requests for information. Just kind of quick rapid fire questions for you. What would you say is your favorite education resource? It could be book, podcast. I mean, I know you read a lot of books, or kind of sort of read a lot of books. But what would you say your favorite resource is for education purposes?
Yeah, I think there's a couple books I certainly recommend. One is, we talked about mindset, and just you don't even need to read the book. Google the infographic, and it talks about two mindsets. People that have a fixed mindset, they get corrected. They say, I don't want to learn about it. They make a mistake. They're like, somebody else's fault. And then the growth mindset. And man, once you realize those two mindsets, you see it everywhere. Mindset's definitely one of the winners. The other is the book. It's by Covey. It's called The Speed of Trust, and it resonated so much with me. If you do business with people that you trust, you can move much faster. I have a business relationship with my dad. I trust him. He trusts me. We have quite a bit of money that is exchanged between us on a one-page contract. When we need to change it, make a phone call, say, hey, Dad, I'm going to send you a new contract. We're going to update this. We're going to change the terms. We're going to go from here to here. And we do that because of the because we trust each other, and we're able to operate very quickly because of the speed of trust. Now, conversely, I also have a mortgage of about the same amount. The bank doesn't trust me. Bank doesn't trust me at all. And I just sold this house just actually a couple days ago, and I signed probably maybe 500 pages. This is incredible.
Yeah, it's so painful.
Hours of disclosure. Do you know how much that bogs you down? Totally, it makes it so not fun to get a Fannie and Freddie mortgage because the bank doesn't trust you. Rather go to my dad, pay him extra. I'll pay him a lot extra because it's so much easier for me because we're able to operate at the speed of trust. Like people I trust, Storehouse 310 with other companies that I trust. We're able to operate quick, we're able to operate fast, and it's so much more enjoyable working with people I know, like, and trust, rather than people that just assume that, rather than people that don't trust you or you don't trust them. So, speed of trust.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. The other podcast I really enjoyed recently is Jordan Peterson. And if you haven't heard of him, he's basically a philosopher football coach. So think of a philosopher, an old stodgy philosopher that talks to men. His audience is mainly men. But he has the message of work harder, put your shoulders back, do better, do the best you can, embrace what you can, and work hard. It's a football coach message. And he is recently, a couple of years ago, he actually did I think there's a 10 lecture series on Genesis. I think Genesis, maybe 1 through 20, creation through Abraham. And he didn't look at it as a pastor would look at it, as a Christian would look at it. He looked at it through the lens of mythology. It was fascinating to look at it as mythology and literature. And if you're a Christian, it gives you a whole new approach and perspective and way to view some of the biblical canon, which is fascinating. If you're not a Christian, then it gives you a way to look at the foundational book that has been the basis for Western thought and Western civilization. And it, if you've not read it, starting with Jordan Peterson's biblical lectures, about 12 one-hour lectures, it's just fascinating how he analyzes Genesis and the thoughts in Genesis and the this is in Genesis. So those are probably 3 great resources that I've really enjoyed. I've really enjoyed long form discussion and long form podcasts and being able to have a thought and being able to talk about that thought for an hour whether it's Joe Rogan, that will interview somebody, interview an elephant trainer and talk to this elephant trainer for 3 hours. Like you can never do that on CNN News. Like an elephant trainer might get 30 seconds. How much information can you really get in 30 seconds? You get a quick joke, picture of an elephant, and a comment and a punchline. Get a lot. Learn a lot about elephants in 4 hours from Joe Rogan. So those are some good resources that I've enjoyed.
I wrote elephant trainer 3-hour podcast, must listen.
I don't even know if he's interviewed an elephant trainer.
I don't know if David could listen to a 3-hour podcast about elephant trainers. Like
I don't think I could.
There's a lot. Like I think I said in the last podcast, there's a lot of squirrels that are going on in David's world that he would.
I'll tell you what, my podcasts are all at ×2 speed. And
wow, good for you. Yeah.
Well, when I was mentored by a guy who is at like 2.5. I'm like, dude, I can't even process, but he said it took him a few years to get to that. But now I can't listen to him normal speed. Like even ours, I'm just like 0.2 or 2 speed. It's just like, bah, but you get the information. Just real quick on one thing, I will tell you that when you and I had a conversation probably a month or two back about the speed of trust, and you really introduced that to me and said, hey, this is where we're operating right now. That was a huge compliment. And I will say that one thing that, there's a lot of painful stuff running a business, and especially real estate and tenants and all that kind of stuff, right? But we get to interact with people like you and folks that we genuinely enjoy talking to, folks that we genuinely trust. And I tell you, when you have a business that's built around focusing on those kind of relationships, it is awesome. And one of the things that stuck with me from the Best Ever conference, I can't remember who was speaking, no idea what he even talked about, but I remember one thing that he said. And he said, he's like, pardon my language, folks, but we have a rule with anybody who wants to syndicate with us, and it's the no douche rule. And I was just like, man, that's awesome. But it was the culture of his business, and he wasn't talking about. He's like, I don't even want your money if this is who you are, and we just can't work together, right? And you don't see that a lot. People are typically looking for money, and they'll take it anyway. But the speed of trust really made an impact on me when we had that conversation. So thank you for that. Next question for you. We say rapid fire, but they're
they're not so
great,
rapid
fire. Great conversations.
Well, let me hit. Let's go a little longer on this. I kind of want to hit something too. I mean, back to this trust thing, and growing our business, all we do is use private lenders for all of our real estate transactions, and we could absolutely go out and get like a bank loan or a line of credit. But to your point of, there's no trust there. It's a pain in the butt, and there's a lot of paperwork involved. And yeah, we would get a way lower rate on the money that we're using. But our private lenders that we have are our closest friends, and we love the idea of making money for them. And we love the idea of paying them that higher interest rate and having that trust, and them being able to give us money and us give them a return on their money, and having that relationship piece to it. It's awesome. Like, it's so much fun to have that as a part of our business. Yeah. So I just wanted to hit on that real fast.
We like to do business with people we know, like, and trust.
Yeah.
Yeah. So number 2 in our quick fire round, if you could tell your younger self one thing, what would it be?
Yeah, that was a tough one. I was trying to look through my notes here. For good or for bad, I'm often very solely focused on one thing. When I was at the academy, when I was in middle school, high school, I wanted to get to the academy. Like, that was it. Like, I'm gonna focus on that one thing. At the academy, I wanted to go EOD. Focus on that one. Wanted to do some websites. Solely focus on that. And it's been good in that a lot of the distractions have gone to the side. Don't consume news. Don't consume entertainment for the most part. But also some of life's pleasures have also gone to the side. While it's certainly a balance, and you can swing too far on both sides. And I think if I'm at fault, it would be for maybe being a little bit too focused. Thinking, well, if I just get this project done now, then I can work on my why later. And rather, I mean, shoot, I could be dead tomorrow. And if all I did was working on, my business now so I could get to my why later, that'd be a huge mistake. So the advice I'd give myself then is the advice I'd give myself now. And that's incorporate a little bit of that why in now. Because tomorrow may never come.
Dude, I mean, I am right there with you.
Sure, you're in the same boat. Yeah,
I am, man. I focus so much on the business and growth and mindset. And there's sometimes I'm like, man, what have I done for fun lately?
Yeah.
My fun right now is building a business, which sounds terrible, but yeah, I gotta get more focused on that too. It's good stuff. So similar question, but a little different. What would you tell somebody, like a younger service member? What piece of advice would you give someone who wants to be in your shoes, 10 years from now?
Yeah, I'd say take the first step. Man, you've got ideas. You want to do real estate. You want to do a small business. You want to do a Christmas tree farm. It's easy to have the idea. Like the idea, oh man, I'm going to be a real estate investor. Oh, it'd be so cool. Oh man, they have all this money and they're rich. Oh, I want to grow kombucha or, brew kombucha. Oh, it'd be awesome. It is awesome. That's great. But you've got to take that first. You've got to go beyond idea to actual reality. And some friends of mine who just wanted to do chocolate, wanted to sell custom chocolate. Man, like they talk about it, it's like this brilliant idea. They got their logo, and that's where it ended, at the logo.
And maybe stay away from the Bolivian tea. Do not grow or drink the Bolivian tea. If you're in the United States Navy, don't do that. So John, last question. How do people get a hold of you so that, when they want to take that next step, when they want to take action, when they want somebody to talk to that's going to give them great advice and drop some wisdom on them, how do people reach out to you?
Yeah, I'm more than happy to talk to anybody. So the best way is through LinkedIn. John Laney on LinkedIn. I'm probably one of the first ones there. You can also reach out to me through my website, DoD Reads. There's a form there, or you can also just email me, john@dodreads.com. It's Department of Defense Reads.com.
Cool. We'll make sure to put all that stuff in the show notes as well. Well, I've had an amazing time having a conversation with you. I kind of want to end it with, how do we kind of get this Christmas tree farm going here?
Hey man, we're good for it. We're men of action.
Great question. Well, who knows what's going to happen with COVID? We had wanted to go overseas, and man, like as far as plans are, I have no idea where I'm going to be living 2 months from now. I'm renting this house. I have no idea what could happen 2 months from now. And that stinks. But there's also some opportunity there. A lot of opportunity. Who knows? Maybe it will not do our Bolivia trip, not do our around the U.S. road trip, and go to Oregon and find something there. I have no idea, but I'm looking. One door closes, another one opens, and we'll see.
So true.
Yeah.
It's that mindset. That mindset will open doors for you too.
Yeah, well, better. Because if not, what else can I do? Like, what else can I do? Crying about it's not going to help. Being upset.
I tell Stu that all the time. He calls and he's got these tears in his eyes and he's like this lost puppy dog look. I'm like, hey man, crying is not going to get us there, Stu. Just pull yourself up by your bootstraps. You got this, bucko.
And I go tell my 5-year-old that too. I try to just pass it down.
That's good. Delegate.
Yeah, a delegate. Delegate. Well, John, thanks, man. I really appreciate you coming on. I know David does too. It's been a fun hour with you, and we have these conversations not recorded as well, and so it's always fun. I know we will continue to do that and continue to work and grow our partnership and our relationship, and so it's a lot of fun. Anything else, Dave?
Absolutely.
No. Thanks, John. Appreciate you, buddy. Looking forward to our next combo, and just really appreciate your time.
Thanks. Yeah. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Stu and David. Absolute pleasure working with you.
All right. Well,
All right.
you guys have an amazing day. Hope you got something out of this, and go fill your storehouse.
Okay.
See ya.